All right. Hello. Home care, breakthrough family. Hope you guys are doing amazing. All right, we're jumping on here live. Hopefully, you guys, there's enough light back here. So today we are going to talk about 3 keys when hiring your next sales superstar. So, comment in the chat box. Have you ever attempted to hire a salesperson? Let me know if you guys, hello Brittany, anyone else that's on here live, say hello. But have you ever attempted to hire a salesperson? What's up, Belinda? See, I know when I first started my business, I was like, I'm just going to have someone else go out there and do some of the sales. And I hired a salesperson, actually, and then I hired 2, and then I hired a 3rd one, and it flopped. What do I mean by it flopped? It means that I was paying X amount of dollars to my salesperson, whatever the number was at the time. It was probably, I think at the time it was like $40,000. Now I'd be paying a salesperson way more, and it also depends on the market. But that's not the point. The point is that I'm investing in a salesperson. And then when you start to look at the return and the output, I was like, wow, I'm not getting results. Like, we're just not getting enough business. And in business, if we're going to make any type of investment, right, part of the goal is like, I'm going to invest dollars, but I hope to see a return, right? Because it doesn't make sense if you hire a salesperson, you're paying them whatever, $40,000 a year, but you're not getting enough cases, right? You're not getting enough business coming in to actually make it worthwhile. You're better off not having the salesperson. Now, with that being said, I knew for me personally, right? So I went through 3, then I went through another 2. And it was just painful because I'm watching money go out the door, not enough coming back. And I'm like, this is crazy. What's happening? It was stressful. It was overwhelming. And I got to the point after early on, 3rd, 4th, or 5th hire, 3rd or 4th or 5th. I'm trying to remember if it was my 3rd or 4th, where I was like, I can't afford to do this anymore, right? So I went back and I started doing the marketing and the sales for my own business. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do this for now. But I knew deep down inside that if I was doing the marketing and the sales for my company, then I didn't have enough time to actually really work on the business. I was doing the business, right? I was doing the sales, doing the marketing, handling intake calls, doing whatever parts of the business that I was really, really good at. And the business wasn't going to grow. My vision for my company is I wanted to build a company where it could serve people at a really, really high level, but I wasn't the business, that it didn't rely on me, that if I wanted to go take a 2-week vacation, I can go do that. And for many, many years, I couldn't, right? I was so consumed by the business. Anyone on here right now in a position where you are doing so much of the business that it consumes you? Maybe it's not sales. Maybe you're doing all the other stuff too, like the scheduling or the recruiting or, all the stuff that owners do. And you don't have time to have balance in your life. That was me. That was my world. And it affected my relationship with my kids because I felt guilty. I constantly was just so consumed by the business. If it wasn't trying to get business, it was trying to serve the clients that we had or putting out fires or doing any of these things. How many of you guys can relate in some shape, manner, or form to this, right? Or is it happening in your business? I don't know if it's you, Brittany, you're like, oh, you're in newer agencies, right? So you've not yet taken the plunge in trying to hire a salesperson. But if you have, comment in the chat box if you have hired a salesperson. If you've had success, awesome. We want to hear about it, okay? We want to hear about it. But if you haven't, all right, which I find in our industry is almost more on the more in the norm, meaning more people have not had success with salespeople than have. Now, please note, I am not saying don't hire salespeople. In fact, you can look at some of the Home Care Pulse data, and the agencies that had a salesperson were doing, I forget, it was like $500,000 or $600,000 more than the average person or the average agency. So, with that being said, my point is that ultimately, I'm a fan of hiring salespeople. But there's 3 important things that go into making sure that you get it right. okay? And I learned this the hard way, right? Because initially I hired salespeople that were in the industry. Woohoo, right? Had someone that was recommended. They're like, oh, you should hire Brenda. She's great. She's got great relationships. She's looking for work. All right. So I met Brenda. Brenda had been in the industry for a long time. Brenda was kind of outgoing a little bit. You know, she had a little bit of a bubbly personality. And essentially, Brenda did not produce at all. She barely produced anything. She was friendly. She was out there. She was a professional. I call them a professional marketer. She was good at dropping off pens and brochures and going to do the social outings. That's awesome. Woohoo! Brenda was getting our name out there. Woohoo! I don't care about that. It's not that I don't care about that. What I care about is I want that to actually yield a result, right? I want it to actually turn into business. Does that make sense? Comment in the chat box if that makes sense. I want it to actually turn into business. So after I got back, right, so I was like, all right, I told you, I went back, I hired 3 or 4 salespeople, flopped all of them. Then I went back and I did selling and marketing myself for a couple of years. Hey, Lisa, you found it, right? So I went back and did sales and marketing myself for a couple of years. And then I was like, you know what? I can't do this. So I hired another person. And guess what? That one flopped too. Right? So I was like, all right, this has got to stop. I'm wasting tens and thousands of dollars. At this point, it was easily over $100,000 wasted where I hired someone, they weren't getting results. So ultimately, I was like, I got to figure this out. I'm doing something wrong, right? Because whatever's happening, it's not working. And I went and actually got some training and I started to learn the difference. And the thing that's embarrassing a little bit is that I used to be a sales manager, right? So my prior life before home care, I was a sales manager. I ran a whole mortgage division, actually a branch, built it up myself from the ground up. It wasn't my company. It was a good friend of mine's. I built it up. I had about 12, 15 loan officers that worked underneath me. I got them trained. I taught them the system. I taught them how to generate income in the mortgage business successfully. Most of them were doing 6 figures or more, which, for a job, that's pretty good. Not for a business owner, but for a job. So I was like, okay, I did this, and yet I'm in my own home care, my business, and I cannot figure out how to make this work. So I started to learn, and again, I learned the 3 key things. We're going to get into those. But the first one, I've mentioned it before, it's finding the right person, okay? There's a lot of little nuances when it comes to finding the right person, okay? It's not just looking at someone who's been in the industry or someone who seems friendly. I've made all of those mistakes before where you just hire someone, you're like, woohoo, like they're friendly and they're outgoing, and I like them, right? Because a lot of salespeople will be likable. A lot of them, right? But that doesn't mean and equate to production, okay? So when it comes to finding the right person, there's an art and a science to it, okay? The art is trusting your own judgment, intuition, all of those things, that there's an art to it. Through practice, you start to figure out what works, what doesn't work, sometimes through trial and error in your own experience. There's the science behind it is truly starting to understand a little bit more around what are the traits, what are the qualities, what is the personality profile that I'm looking for a salesperson. Okay, so Lisa, that's why I mentioned to you, like I won't ever hire someone without doing a DISC profile. Hey, Aster, how are you? I won't. I'm a big proponent of and it doesn't have to be a DISC. It could be something else, but I just know the DISC really well because inside of the DISC profile, I found them to be pretty accurate. So in truth, when you first meet someone, you don't really know how accurate it is on a profile because you don't know them well. And I do this with all my staff, not just my salespeople. I always have my entire team do a personality profile because it helps me understand them better. It helps me figure out what traits are they most aligned with. And then I use it as a management tool as well. So with the salesperson, right, if you were to look at a DISC profile, most DISC profiles that I've seen, they have a list of adjectives. So the D stands for dominance, right? Either someone's dominant, or I don't know if the bottom half of that, the opposite of dominant, is like introverted, secluded, etc. But a good salesperson typically is going to be above the midline on the D. Now, if you were to look at a DISC profile, and somewhere on there, there's going to be adjectives. Okay, so on the D, there's dominant, assertive, blah, blah, blah. And on the bottom, it's introverted, secluded, blah, blah, blah. Right? So you can actually see the words, you can see the adjectives that describe the person. It's a great place to look and start to pull some of the traits that you want, because what I've found through the years is that a good salesperson tends to be a little bit higher on the D, meaning a little bit more dominant, a little bit more assertive. Okay, someone who's really passive, think about this, they're passive, and someone says, oh, I can't meet with you next week. Someone who's passive will be like, oh, okay, all right, okay. Now, you might say, good, I don't want them to be pushy, okay? You can be dominant and assertive without being pushy. You can. You don't have to do it in an arrogant way. Now, in truth, you can be dominant, and I'm sure there's people in my life, and even now, there's people that don't like me. You're not going to be liked by everyone. That's okay. I don't need to be liked, right? I don't need my salesperson necessarily to be liked. The more likable they are, the more people are going to want to do business with them, which I'll get into in a moment. But the truth is that we want someone who's a little bit more assertive, because if they're a little bit more assertive and someone says, oh, I can't meet with you next week, say, all right, well, what about the week after? Can you maybe check your calendar and let's see if we can get something on the books? You can do it in a very nonchalant, friendly, outgoing, you can do it with a smile on your face way, but it's still being assertive. Does that make sense? Comment in the chat box if that makes sense. All right. So we want that in a salesperson. Okay. The next thing is it's influence. I call it impact and influence. Okay. Someone that's higher on the I, they tend to be a lot more social, and, they're the type of people, they do want to be liked. Oh, Lisa. Yeah, I don't care if everyone doesn't. Let me rephrase this. I don't care if not everyone likes me. Okay? Because the truth of the matter is that I don't care what personality type you are, not everyone is going to like you. The end. It doesn't matter. That's just the reality. You're going to have clients that, for whatever reason, they don't like you. You're going to have referral sources that they don't like you. So I'm not saying to be a jerk. What I am saying is that I want someone who is going to be a little bit more assertive, but you can still be assertive in a kind way, just like the example I gave you. If someone said, I can't meet this week, say, oh, no problem. What about next week? Okay, that doesn't mean they're not going to like me. So I'm still being assertive. But someone who's so passive, right, who's very, very passive, they're not likely going to do that. They're going to be like, someone says they didn't meet next week, and then they leave it there. Or on the I, which is the influence, right? People who are super, super high on the I like people who are higher on the I because they're more likable, they're more social. But people that are too high on the I are too worried. All right, let me rephrase this. If they're really, really high on the I and too low on the D, okay, those two going together. If they're really, really high on the I and too low on the D, the person that's really, really high on the I is so worried about what other people are going to think of them. And because of that, and their low dominance profile or their passive profile, they're going to be so worried about someone thinking about them the wrong way, assuming that someone could think about them the wrong way, that they won't press or push. And I'm sitting here telling you, someone who's done it, and someone who's had salespeople and hired many, 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 many of them. All right. I want someone who can be assertive, but not in a jerky way. And I'm okay with running the risk that they might rub one person here or there that they just don't connect with them. It doesn't mean they're jerks, right? Some of us don't like people who are a little more assertive. We judge them. It's okay. That's natural. But I'm telling you, when I hire a salesperson, I want someone assertive. The end. I've done it the other way. I've seen it. I've looked at the profiles. I know what a higher D person produces at. Not all of them. This is not like a end all be all. Just, Greg said it, so it's in writing and it's got 100% be true. No, there's no such thing, right? I'm talking statistically though. People who are higher on the D and higher on the I tend to produce more. Now, I've had clients where I've managed the owner and I taught them sales, and they didn't fit the profiles and they still produced. But that leads to the second piece, okay? The second piece, right? So the first piece is really having the right person, understanding the traits, all that fun stuff. The second piece is, do they have a sales system, right? This is why I'm telling you, I've had people who weren't the right profile, but still produced. Now, in truth, if I'm hiring a salesperson, I want the right profile or close to the right profile. Now, full transparency, I've hired someone who wasn't above the midline on a D. They were a little bit below the midline. And then their I was like mid to upper mid. I was okay with that. I took a chance on him. Everything else worked out. Everything else panned out with him. And he produced. Now, he didn't produce like a sales superstar, but he produced. I still got a return on investment. I was happy. Okay. Now, in reality, I'd much rather have a sales superstar. Okay. I'd much rather have a sales superstar. But he was good. And at the end of the day, like I said, from a business standpoint, I got a return on investment. I invested X amount, whatever, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. I got a return because he produced enough to pay for his salary and then some. And those of you that are in the mastermind group, I've sent this to you, Lisa. I don't know if you still have it. I think I sent it to you. I have a calculator that I sent out to our mastermind group where you can look at, here's the investment that I would make in the salesperson, and here's my billable hours, here's my average pay rate, here's my margins, and then it'll spit out or help you calculate whether or not or when you get a return on investment, okay? Because I'm not here to be a martyr, meaning I'm not here to just pay someone a salary to do sales and hope that it turns into something. That's not how I run my business. I want it to actually yield a result and yield a return. So the second part of it really truly is having a system. So just like McDonald's, I've talked about this before. McDonald's has got McDonald's burgers aren't not that great. In fact, some people can say they're terrible. But they're super successful. It's the largest burger franchise by far, and there's a reason, because they're good at systems. Now with McDonald's, for the most part, you could take almost anyone and plug it into their system, and they're going to produce. Right now, obviously, some people are going to produce better than others. Sorry, I'm jumping all around. Hopefully, you guys can hear me, and I'm not moving too much. But some people are going to produce more than others. Now, with sales, right? With sales, then if you have the right system and a model that works, and you plug the right person in there, you're exponentially increasing your likelihood of success and a return on investment. All right, so Astor said, how about if I can't afford to pay? Well, if you can't afford to pay, what I typically recommend as the owners, you do the marketing, right? You follow a sales system and you implement the sales system so you can drive results. Because at the end of the day, in our industry, you can say all the things that you want to, but you do not have a business if you do not have referrals coming in. And you do not have a business if you don't have caregivers to fill those cases. You need both. The primary drivers in our industry are getting and converting clients and finding and keeping caregivers. That's not going to change. I don't care what business you're in. You have to have leads. You have to have clients. You have to be able to convert those. So if you're looking to grow your business, that has to happen. There's no way around it. Right? So you've got to get the leads. You got to convert them. And you got to get new clients. And you got to get the caregivers. But if you're not doing that, it's going to be harder. It's going to be a slower road. That's just reality. It just is what it is. Okay? So I'm a big proponent of put that as a focus if you want to grow. Now, obviously, you still want to provide good quality care, and there's a lot of other variables that go into it, but the primary drivers are that. So when you have a sales system and you actually follow it, right? How do you target your accounts? What's your differentiation strategy? How do you pre-qualify? What accounts should you be calling on? How are you positioning yourself in the marketplace? How do you address what I call the WIFMs? What's in it for the different referral source types? What's your follow-up look like? Are you following a value-based selling model, right? When you present and you pitch your services, does it have structure, impact, influence? Like there's all these little variables that go into a sales system. But the good thing is that you can hire someone that has the right traits and the right qualities, and you can plug them into the system and they produce. Does that make sense? Or if you're the owner, you follow a system and you produce. And you know what? Even if you're not the best at sales, which I've had many clients, I'm not the best at sales, but if you follow a system and you're willing to do it, right? Are you willing to do it? Then it works. My policy, my approach when it comes to hiring salespeople, I hire for traits. I hire for personality profile. I do prefer someone that has done sales before, so I know whether or not they like sales. I want someone who's bought into what we have to offer. Like, do they really believe in our product or service? And if the answer is yes on those things, I can take someone. My best salespeople were people that weren't from the industry. Right? So there's a little bit of a learning curve on learning the terminology. What's a CNA? What's a HHA? What's an ADL? All these things, right? I didn't know what those things were when I came into this business, but then you learn. So I can teach someone terminology, but I can't teach someone to be assertive. I can't teach someone to be resilient. I can't teach someone to be okay with rejection. Could I over time? Sure, probably. I can't teach someone to be persistent. Someone's either persistent and they're a go-getter or they're not, right? Does that make sense? So these things, they actually matter, right? So you have the right person, you plug them into a system. Those are two key important things. Now, could you have success where you just get the right person with no system? Yeah. Harder, but you could. It's possible. But I don't know about you. I've wasted so much money on doing it the wrong way. It's like, hey, I'm not doing it the wrong way anymore. I'm slower to hire people because I want to find the right person, and I'm not taking all these big risks because mostly everyone on here, you're a small business owner. So we don't have all this luxury of hundreds of thousands of dollars that we can just throw at a problem and hope that we fix it. Right? Now, if you do, more power to you. You can take more risk. But I already had taken enough risk and learned from the School of Hard Knocks. I was like, I want to start doing it the right way. So, right person, plug them into a system, and then the third piece. All right, this is a part that was missing because when I first was, hiring salespeople, I had someone that I thought was good, and they start producing a little bit, and then it starts tailing off a little bit. And I'm like, what's going on, right? What's going on? And, in truth, what happened was our revenue actually started to go up. So I'm like, okay, we're doing good. Something good is happening. And then I don't know how many months later, the revenue started going down. I'm like, something's off. Right? Now, I would meet with them weekly and make sure, hey, what are you doing? Are you calling on these accounts? What's going on? What do you have pending? Like a typical, okay, this is how I would meet with my salespeople. We do check-ins, but it was haphazard. There was not real structure to it. It wasn't real structure to it. It was haphazard structure. And when I started seeing the revenue dipping, I started getting nervous. I'm like, hey, what the heck's going on? And I started digging in, and I realized that for me personally at that time, part of the reason the revenue was going up is we were still getting a lot of referrals from accounts that I had personally developed or I had personally established. And then as the revenue's dipping, I didn't know until I started digging. And it's all because I didn't have my finger on the pulse of what was happening. So revenue dipped. I realized this salesperson was not truly producing. They were running on my coattails of stuff that I had done. And I was like, So the third piece, and it's one of the most important pieces, is you've got to have some sort of an operating system, an accountability, a sales management process where every week you have a specific structure to your meetings. When you're onboarding your salesperson, you have a process for doing things like ride-alongs and addressing their, top accounts, and like there's a whole process for it. Okay, because then when you have your finger on the pulse of what's happening, not just, hey, are they getting referrals? Of course that matters. That's the end goal. But there's a bunch of activities that go into making sure that they are going to get those referrals. So when they're doing these things consistently, the results will be there. And when they're not, and you have a process for it, then you can automatically call out, hey, this isn't getting done. What's going on? Right? But that happens way quicker. It doesn't happen 6 months, 8 months, 10 months down the road, and you're like, oh, I already dumped all this money into this person, and I'm not getting a result. Right? You catch it way, 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 way quicker, and then you don't just hang on and like, oh, I hope it'll turn around. I'm going to give them a shot. I did that, guys. And it typically doesn't turn around. So when you have your finger on the pulse, the sales management accountability part, when you have true finger on the pulse, then your risk goes down. If it truly is like, hey, I did all the things that Greg said on the front end, but I still didn't get the right person, right? Could that happen? Yeah. Yep, it could, right? Because remember, there's a little bit of an art to it and a science, but I'm going to follow the science, and then I'll bring my art to it. And then you can still find a wolf in sheep's clothing, okay? But the thing is with this third piece in place, with that right accountability model, you find that way quicker. You find it way, 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 way quicker. This way you've not wasted thousands of dollars, okay? Tens of thousands of dollars. So all of these things come into play when it comes to hiring or finding the right salesperson. So if you're someone on here, and guys, there's some people like, I'll never hire a salesperson again. Yeah, I got there for a bit, but then I was like, I still can't scale unless I have it. I'd rather have pillars. What do I mean by pillars? Hey, if I'm getting a return on investment on a salesperson, why would I not keep it? If I'm getting a return on investment on my SEO or search engine optimization or pay-per-click strategy, why would I not keep it? Right? If I'm getting a return on investment from running ads in a senior directory, right? Don't do that blindly, guys. Right? I've seen some people where it works and others it doesn't. It didn't really work for me. I eventually, truly, I stopped going in senior directories because I'm like, all right, I'm spending all this money. I care about return on investment. Now, yeah, you could do for branding. That's fine. Branding has value. But when I run my business, I want a direct return on investment. I want to know that I put X amount of dollars in and I can get a return. And then if I can get a return, then you want to scale, you just double down. Right? You double down. So I hope this helps you guys. Ultimately, 3 key things: finding the right person, right? Again, art and science to it. Number 2, having a system, a model that they follow. You take the right person, you plug them in, all right? Even if they're not from the industry. I honestly have preferred people not from the industry, but that really, really want this. And the third thing is your sales management and sales accountability. These 3 key things are going to decrease your risk when you do hire a salesperson and maximize your return on investment. Even the third part, even if you have a good person, I don't care who you are, Tom Brady, Michael Jordan. Although, by the way, guys, those are Tom Brady followers. I just found out that he filed for divorce, or his wife did, and I feel sad for them because I actually do like the guy. Yeah, you can see in his play he's not doing as good as he was. But my point is that he's a great athlete, had a coach. When I mean a coach, we're the coaches of our salespeople, okay? We're the coaches. We're the ones holding them accountable. So even if it's just about accountability, we're the ones doing it. As business owners, right? I have my own people that I answer to. I have coaches that I work with that I answer to. I say I'm going to do something, and now I've got to tell them that I've done it. You're more likely to have a result and get things done if you've got people that you're answering to. Now, obviously, many of us on here, we're kind of self-motivated. We start our own business, but the truth is that if you got a salesperson, I don't care if they're good, there's got to be a layer of accountability in there. And it's not just, hey, I meet with them once a week and we talk every week about what's going on. Yeah, Beth, I'm open to hiring a salesperson with inside sales experience. I really am. They still have to meet the traits. They still have to meet the personality profile. And there's lots of different ways to do that. But yeah, I would be very open to that. Outside sales is a little bit different. But if you follow that plus the accountability part, like the ride-alongs and stuff like that, you'll know. But I care first about, do I have the right person? I will take someone from inside sales. I'll teach them outside sales. I had to learn it when most of my sales career was inside sales. And then when I got into home care, it's really my first time doing outside sales. I just, at the beginning, didn't have a model. Once I started tweaking and playing around and learning different things, I created a model that works. So you can teach someone outside sales, and then with the right accountability, you'll know if it's happening. So yeah, I'm all for it. Anyway, that's all I've got, guys. I hope this helps some of you, but these are three key things, right? And if you really want to learn all the details and all the nuances and all that fun stuff about, hiring the right people, the sales management piece, we have programs for that, where we go more in depth. We talk about the how-to, right? What are all the specifics on the profile? What are all the things the traits that we're looking for, right? How do we hold them accountable ultimately? What does a sales system look like? Like all the three pieces. So if anyone has interest in learning that, just comment below, hire sales superstar or something like that in the comments section, and I'll try to have someone on our team reach out to you. But I hope this was helpful. This will give you really a lot of good pieces here, and they're important. They matter. So don't give up. All right. And what I forgot to say is the first 5 to 7 salespeople I hired, flops. Once I learned how to do these things, guys, the next 3 people that I hired, I got a return on investment. Okay. And one of the guys, I sold my business 5 years ago. He's still with the company today. Shane. So I don't think he's in this group, but if he is, hello. He was awesome. Right? But he didn't have industry experience. He had sales experience, and I just taught him the process and the accountability part. And what was fun or funny is that I talked to him a couple years back, maybe 3 years ago. This is like 2 years after I sold the business. And I don't know, in my mind, I thought, hey, I'm wondering, like, did he think I was being, micromanaging him? I wasn't, right? I wasn't micromanaging him, but did he think that I was? And he said, man, he's like, one of the things I miss our weekly process and the weekly meetings and da-da-da. So he actually missed that part of it because I was helping him be better at what he does. I was helping him be more productive. And essentially, if you structure your comp plan correctly, you're going to help them with, make more money. That's my train of thought. You can help them with making more money. So hope that helps you guys. Have an amazing rest of your day. All right, David, good seeing you, buddy. I'll have someone reach out to you, all right? Or shoot me an email too. But hope you guys are doing well. Hope this helps. And we'll talk soon. Bye-bye. Oh, I got something exciting coming in a couple weeks, guys. Something I've never done before, and I'm excited. All right, we'll talk soon. Bye.